Linda was everything a modern woman was supposed to be: beautiful, educated, ambitious, and independent. At 33, she had carved out a life many admired from afar. Her job as a corporate lawyer at a major firm in Lagos came with a corner office, a generous paycheck, and invitations to elite social events. She lived in a serviced apartment with marble floors, mood lighting, and scented candles burning in every room. She drove a black SUV with leather seats and a Bluetooth system that automatically played her curated playlists, mostly Zay, Thames, and Beyoncé. To the world, Linda had it all. But deep down, she was lonely. She would never admit that, though, not even to herself. Her days were structured, productive, impressive. She woke at 5:30 a.m., meditated, ran on the treadmill, and drank smoothies with names like Glow Boost and Gut Reset. Her wardrobe was filled with elegant blouses and tailored trousers, and she never left the house without her nails done and her brows shaped. She was the type of woman who inspired admiration and intimidation in equal measure. But every night, when she took off her heels and laid on her 800 thread count sheets, a quiet emptiness crept. She wanted love, real love. But the idea of opening herself to someone, of being vulnerable, raw, or even needy, terrified her. So she created a rule book. Her dates had to earn at least what she earned. They had to dress with elegance, speak with precision, text her with the right tone and frequency. Any misstep, a late reply, an offhand joke, a suggestion she found beneath her, and they were dismissed, blocked, deleted. Her friends would ask, "What happened to that guy you went out with?" She would shrug. He was just not serious. What she didn't say was that he was actually quite sweet. He had brought her flowers, complimented her intelligence, and even prayed before dinner. But he mispronounced Merlot when ordering wine, and that was enough for Linda to lose interest. She wanted perfection, or at least her version of it. She had read enough books, listened to enough TED Talks, and watched enough high-value woman content on YouTube to know what she should want. Standards, boundaries, self-worth. She had all of it, in spades. But what she lacked was softness. She had built walls instead of bridges, and every year those walls grew higher. One night, after a particularly underwhelming date, Linda found herself parked outside her apartment, too exhausted to go inside. The man had done nothing wrong. In fact, he had shared his struggles, his job loss during the pandemic, how he was rebuilding. He had been honest, even vulnerable. And Linda had sat across from him, smiling politely, but already planning her exit. "He's too broken," she told herself. "I don't have time to fix anyone." Now, sitting in her car, makeup smudged and heels tossed in the passenger seat, she felt something unexpected: guilt. Not because she owed him anything, but because for the first time she had recognized something in him. A desire to connect, a flicker of sincerity, something she hadn't felt in years. Tears welled up in her eyes. She hadn't cried in a long time. She didn't allow herself to. Crying was for the weak, and Linda didn't do weak. But that night, she cried, not for the man she had turned away, but for herself, for the parts of her she had buried beneath ambition and pride, for the warm-hearted girl she used to be before the world taught her that love could be dangerous, for the chances she never gave good men because they didn't look like the fantasy she had created in her head. She cried because somewhere deep inside she was tired. Tired of pretending she didn't want to be held. Tired of acting like she didn't care when weddings filled her timeline and baby showers filled her weekends. Tired of overthinking every interaction. Tired of being admired by many but truly known by none. And yet by the next morning, the mask was back on. At the office, she was brilliant, confident, unshakable. She laughed at her male colleagues' jokes, declined their lunch invites, and closed her deals with razor-sharp focus. No one saw the woman who cried in her car just hours before. No one saw her pain because she wouldn't let them. She got another message that afternoon. A new guy, handsome, doctor, polite. He wanted to take her out that weekend. She smiled, closed the app, and replied with her usual charm. But somewhere deep inside, a whisper lingered. Will you let this one in, or will you scare him away too? Because here was the truth she didn't want to admit. The truth that no one dared say to women like her. Linda wasn't single because she was too strong. She was single because she was too afraid to be soft. And until that changed, perfection would keep her company, but love never would. Linda adjusted her sunglasses and stepped out of her Lexus, the soft click of her heels echoing on the pavement. The afternoon sun warmed the city streets as she walked into her boutique, Elegance by Linda. Shelves gleamed, and mannequins wore the latest dresses she had personally curated. Customers greeted her with admiration, and staff scrambled to make sure everything stayed perfect. At 28, Linda had built a life many envied: beauty, business, respect. But behind that polished life was something she rarely admitted out loud: loneliness. That evening, she had dinner plans with Michael. Michael was not the kind of man Linda thought she'd fall for. He was calm, simple, and worked as a secondary school teacher. He didn't drive a luxury car or wear designer watches, but he had a quiet wisdom and steady love that made her feel seen in a way others never did. They sat at a cozy rooftop restaurant, soft music playing in the background. Michael held her hand gently across the table. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. Linda raised an eyebrow. "You're not about to embarrass me with a poem again, are you?" He smiled. "No poems today." Then he stood up, got on one knee, and opened a small black box. Inside was a gold ring with a modest but sparkling stone. Linda froze. "I love you, Linda," Michael said softly. "You're strong, intelligent, beautiful. I know I don't have a mansion or millions, but I promise I'll spend my life loving you, growing with you, and giving you peace. Will you marry me?" The restaurant seemed to pause. A nearby couple clapped quietly. A waiter peeked from behind a pillar. Linda's heart pounded, not with joy but conflict. She looked down at Michael, then at the ring, then back at him. "Michael," she said, her voice low, "can we talk about this privately?" His face fell slightly, but he nodded and stood up, slipping the ring box back into his pocket. Back at her apartment, Michael sat on her couch, staring at the floor. Linda paced the room. "You surprised me," she said finally. "I know, but we've been together a year." "I thought you felt the same," he said. "I do," she replied. "But let's be honest, our lives are different. You earn barely enough to get by. I'm building something big. I need a partner who can match me, grow with me, financially, socially." Michael looked up at her. "So, love isn't enough?" She hesitated. "Love is important, but let's not pretend money doesn't matter." There was silence between them. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound. "I never knew you looked at me like that," he said quietly. "It's not about you being beneath me," she added quickly. "It's just, I've worked hard to get where I am. I can't marry someone I'll end up carrying financially." Michael nodded slowly. "You're allowed to want what you want, but I hoped we were building something real." Tears welled in her eyes, but pride wouldn't let them fall. "I'm sorry, Michael." He stood up, gently took her hand, and kissed it. "One day, I hope you find what you're looking for, and I hope it brings you peace." He walked out of her apartment that night, and out of her life. 2 years passed. Linda grew more successful. She expanded her boutique, appeared on a magazine cover, and bought a second car. Yet something felt hollow. One afternoon, while scrolling through Instagram, she paused on a photo. Michael, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, stood beside a smiling woman in a white dress. The caption read, "A love that doesn't boast but builds, Mr. and Mrs." Her heart sank. She stared at the photo for a long time, her fingers numb. The woman wasn't flashy, just soft-eyed with a calm smile. Michael looked happy, peaceful. It wasn't the ring that caught Linda's attention this time. It was his expression. He had given someone else the peace he once promised her. That night, Linda sat alone in her living room. The TV played a romantic drama in the background, but she wasn't watching. Her phone lay face down on the table. A glass of wine sat untouched. She finally whispered to the room, "I did love him." But love had taken a back seat to pride, and pride didn't hold her when she cried. Pride didn't ask how her day went. Pride didn't bring joy, it only protected ego. She stood and walked to the mirror, taking in her reflection. The same confident woman looked back at her, but with a sadness behind her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Linda sat alone. No one had stayed behind. No one had asked if she had someone special. No one dared. For years, she'd pushed that subject away with jokes or judgment. She picked up her phone. Messages flooded her inbox. "Happy birthday, ma'am. Wishing you more millions. Forever young." Then her hand froze. One message sat apart. From Michael A. Her throat tightened. She hadn't heard from him in 10 years. The message was short. Saw your birthday photos. You look beautiful. Just wanted to say I hope you're happy. Happy 40th. There was a picture attached. Linda tapped it. It was a family photo. Michael stood beside his wife and two children, one boy, one girl, both smiling, both clearly his. She zoomed in. The boy had his smile. The girl had her eyes. Her eyes began to sting. Then the photo switched to a video. She hadn't noticed it was two files. Michael was at home, sitting with his kids on a sofa. The girl leaned on him. "Daddy, tell the story again of how you met Mommy." He chuckled. Okay, but this is the last time tonight." The camera shook with laughter. Then his wife, the same woman from the wedding photo years ago, entered the frame with a bowl of popcorn. "Tell the story right this time," she said, teasing. Linda watched them. No designer couch, no expensive dress, just love. And suddenly, the room around her felt like a cage. She threw the phone onto the floor. A choked sound escaped her lips. She hadn't realized she was crying. She stood up and walked to the window. The city lights flickered below. Cars moved like ants. And for the first time in years, she whispered the truth. "I'm alone." Her voice trembled. "I'm really alone." Her pride had built a fortress. No man was ever enough. Too short, too boring, too eager, too emotional, too broke, too average. But none of them were too cruel. None of them hurt her. She did that to herself. She turned away from the window and stared at her reflection in the glass. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was from her cousin, Sandra. "You need to call me. It's about Bola." Linda frowned. Bola had been her childhood friend. They hadn't spoken in years, not since Linda mocked her for marrying a mechanic. "You'll spend your life with oily shirts and generator noise," Linda had joked. She dialed Sandra immediately. "Hello?" Sandra picked up on the first ring. Her voice was shaky. "You haven't heard?" "Heard what?" Linda asked, tension rising. "Bola died." Linda's breath caught. "What?" "She collapsed at the market. Heart attack. They said it was her husband. He's a mess. The kids are in shock." Silence. "I thought you should know. I know you two weren't close anymore." Linda didn't reply. After hanging up, she sat on the cold floor, her gown spilling around her like a broken crown. First Michael, now Bola. Suddenly, memories came crashing in. Her mocking tone when Bola showed her a small house filled with love. Her laughter when Bola said, "It's not fancy, but it's ours." Her cold expression when she saw Bola's husband fixing his own generator by hand. And now, he'd be burying her. Linda curled up on the floor, sobbing. It was all too loud now, the silence, the regrets, the what-ifs. Her phone buzzed one more time. It was a message from a private number. "Linda, we've reviewed your application for IVF. Unfortunately, due to your age and medical factors, the chances of success are extremely low. We suggest considering other options or support groups. We wish you the best." Her hand trembled. She had delayed motherhood, telling herself the right man will come. But she hadn't wanted a man. She had wanted perfection. And life had moved on without her. She was beautiful, brilliant, feared, respected. But no one had kissed her forehead in years. No one knew how she liked her tea. No one had ever sat beside her on the couch at night, just to say nothing and feel everything. She picked up the wine glass and threw it against the wall. It shattered, just like her pride, just like the life she could have had. And in the middle of luxury, the woman everyone admired sat sobbing on the floor, alone, childless, unloved. Not because of fate or failure, but because she was never willing to bend. And in the mirror, she no longer saw a queen. She saw a prisoner of her own standards.